Welcome to Thought Leader Life, where we are helping to democratize thought leadership. Join us each week where we interview a new thought leader about what it takes to become and maintain thought leadership in a number of different vertical markets. To learn more, check out www.thoughtleaderlife.com. Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and welcome to episode 153 of Thought Leader Life. We have a very interesting and entertaining month set out for you. I've got Ronan Leonard, and Ronan is affectionately known as the Mastermind guy. Ronan, thanks for joining me for this month.
Mitchell, thanks for having me on the show. Really looking forward to deep diving into this fascinating subject.
Well, okay, I agree. And I love it. And I think it's very fascinating. If you're in the corporate space, corporations don't like the word mastermind, right? If you're in the online learning, self-help world, masterminds are huge. Yeah. And it's one of those really interesting dichotomies. So, hey, let's just start off with your definition of what is a mastermind.
All right. Well, there's a lot of them around there. The easiest way that I like to explain it, the one that's had the biggest global impact, is that if you've ever been to a gallery and seen Renoir, Degas, Monet, all those famous and fabulous artists. So what they did is that back over 100 years ago, they were all in a cafe in Paris, and they were sharing ideas, they were sharing canvas, they were sharing paint, and together they created a whole art revolution called the Impressionist movement. It didn't happen in isolation. It wasn't just Monet saying, this is how I believe painting should be, or this is my interpretation of it. They collaborated together to inform that, and they did that in the spirit of harmony and coming together. So that's my best definition of a true mastermind, where there isn't just one guru on the hill, there is that collaboration of people coming together. So once you hear that and you understand it, you go, okay, yeah, that's an amazing concept.
And so when I think about mastermind, so is obviously there's a facilitator and there's a bunch of people. Who gets more control, or how does that work?
Well, ideally, the person that has the most knowledge, or the person that is running the group, becomes the facilitator. But I like to say in a mastermind, it doesn't matter where the best ideas come from. It could come from somebody that is new in business, somebody that works in a different industry or niche. It doesn't really matter where the best idea comes from, just that you get the best idea and the best result for you. So it doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned. The ego just is taken out of account of that.
Got it. So part of it would be if you're thinking as a professional that you should run a mastermind, one of the things you have to do is check your ego at the door. What are some of the rules that you have to think about for masterminding?
That's a good question. Yeah, check your ego door a little bit. You want to be someone that teaches what people want to learn, not what you want to teach. And there's a huge but subtle difference between those two things. So it's being open and curious and getting feedback from your audience. It's that intimacy of a mastermind that you don't get in a course, and you don't get when someone produces a podcast or even a blog, where you're getting that 2D information. This is real 3D. I can ask a question that's specific to me, and I can get some context instead of just more content.
So tell me about, what are we covering? We've got 4 other episodes. I know our next guest is spectacular, and some of theirs I've looked at similarly. What do we want to cover? What are we focused on?
Well, we're going to touch on certain different things, a little bit around creating some authority and creating a higher, almost sort of purpose or a legacy, whatever you want to call that, and authority. And that often comes just from teaching. The simplest way to create any kind of authority is through teaching. Because if you don't do any kind of teaching, you're almost non-existent. People just don't know you. And certainly you don't build any credibility. So we're going to touch a little bit about that. We could talk a little bit about the inverted sort of classroom. And it's really just how this whole concept of creating and sharing knowledge together helps everybody. And there's different ways to apply that, but that's the overall sort of key message.
So I'm still thinking, I'm wrapping my arms around this mastermind concept. So if I'm in a corporation, isn't it just called training?
Look, yes and no. It's the idea that you can take almost training from your, I wouldn't say your competitors, but people within your industry. So it's more collaboration than just straightforward training. So if you, for example, were in the HR industry, if you could get together with a group of other HR people from around the world and share different ideas, what's working in the US versus the UK, this is a new concept, spreading those ideas faster than if it just in those silos of okay, we're just staying within our organization. So it's partly training, but again, it's collaborating with people that potentially have different answers and different solutions to you.
And are you saying then that so within a company, this might be hard because people are very narrow-minded, or help me understand that?
Well, certainly within companies, there is that, compared to entrepreneurs, there's a different mindset. And the reality is the corporate mindset is there are only so many positions above you. So you're all competing against each other. And we've seen this in a lot of organizations, especially the ones that do it poorly or don't do it very well. They end up going out of business. Everybody is trying to create their own little fiefdom or their little way in the world. So it's built into people within an organization for the most part is to not to collaborate, but to try and get their best work forward and get promoted. And that is the reality. Whereas when you become an entrepreneur, all of those things go away and you're much better off collaborating and working with others and sharing ideas and resources. So some companies do it well, but a lot don't. And that structured and ingrained competition really doesn't help the mastermind process.
So I want to switch it. So I like the conceptual concepts of masterminding. And I think part of what we want to uncover in this month in the series we're talking about is masterminding as a tool for driving incremental success for you as the expert or for you as the company. Does that sound about right?
Yes. Well, it's both ways. A mastermind is a true learning platform. So yes, you create that improvement, but also you're helping the people that you are teaching. So if you're leveraging that, they're going to get far better results than they would just learning information rotely. As I said, you get that context over content. So it needs to be like anything, a win-win. So your raving fans are the people that you've really helped them over their biggest hurdles and their humps. And a big part of it is accountability. So it's the difference between a course where you sell a course, it's just information. People don't always implement it. In fact, a big chunk of people don't. And they just don't get that one-on-one time with the expert that's created it and has that deeper knowledge and gets to answer those questions that they have and those sticking points.
So I'm going to open up a little bit here. So when I did my Kickstarter at the end of 2016, it hit 250% of goal. The trick, by the way, for those who are watching and listening, how you make a Kickstarter work is you offer a product or service you have in real life and you offer it at a discount. So what happened is I had finally gotten our book series to the point where I have a 3-step process, and it would take 8 hours to write a book if you wrote it yourself. So as part of the Kickstarter, 20 people paid us that when they wrote their book, we'd publish it. So fast forward a year, we're at the end of 2017, and I looked at those numbers. And of the 20 people, the crazy part is only 2 actually wrote their books. And that's when I figured out I didn't like that business. I didn't want to be there. So I went to 5 people and I said, hey guys, how about I ghost for you? How about I write it for you? One person said yes. So now I say 3 people actually, by the way, it's a long-winded way of getting to an answer or getting to a question. So 3 people actually wrote their book. So what was fascinating, it bothered me that people paid me money and we didn't service them, right? It just wasn't, they didn't write their books. And it largely said that 17 people couldn't find 8 hours in a 12-month period to do something they already paid for that would be beneficial for them. That gave me concern. Here's what gave me more concern. I went to my friends in the online learning industry. I went to my friends in the internet marketing industry. And here's what they said. They said, Mitchell, you realize 3 out of 20 is a 15% utilization rate? They said, that's fantastic. Okay. Ronan, that really bothered me. So that was a long way of saying, so is there more accountability, more, if you signed up 20 people to a mastermind, are you guaranteeing 100% utilization, or is it's just something that's something other than, and hopefully much greater than 15%?
We build in as much accountability as possible. Ultimately, you can't force people to do the work. You can give them plenty of encouragement, incentives. You can ensure that when they turn up, as I said, you're teaching what they want to learn, not what you want to teach. You're building in processes, which we teach all this in our program, to ensure that you get the highest conversion rate as possible. Because, like you said, 15% is really low. It's a horrible business model. The more people you can create that shortcut for, that result for, the more they're going to go away and be your absolute brand advocates. And you want advocacy. Advocacy is what sells. Gary Vee, everyone goes, oh, Gary Vee's amazing. He's giving me all this free content. Goes out and just tells more and more people. And that's something that Facebook ads can never do. The fact that you can get enough people as being advocates. So yes, exactly. You want that intimate, I believe, that intimate group of people that you can genuinely really help to achieve their outcomes. And I call it wrapping it up in a promise. At the end of this mastermind, you will achieve this. And when you can state something in a promise, both parties know whether it's being delivered or not. And that helps keep everybody on track. But yes, 15% utilization rate is terrible. It's great for your bank balance, but it's a terrible business model if you want to ethically build something that genuinely helps people, which is what most business owners are in business for, then absolutely.
I like that thought. If you want to ethically build your business,
business is the simplest form of business is that someone's got a problem, you fix it, and they'll pay you for that because they don't have the skill set or the time or what have you. That's it in its simplest format. So why wouldn't you can I get more and more people to that success metric as possible?
Interesting. All right, let's talk about money. So when I think about how life has changed in the past, I used to have authors come to me, and what we do as a chief global credibility expert, I'm basically giving credibility, right? When somebody has a book, and by the way, we're going to do 5 sessions. We'll end up creating a AHA book and a Kindle version based on the comments from these sessions. So somebody has a book, they get credibility. In the past, and I've been publishing since 2005, there were authors that come to me and they actually make good money on book sales. Now, generally speaking, they're going to make 4 to 10 times on the incremental services that they offer based on that. So when I think about the concept of a book today, I think of it more as either lead candy or that magnet that tripwire that gets people in the door. So you do a book and then people recognize you. They sort of know who you are. Then the next level up might be a online training course, something that you sell for $200, and then from there, what some people do is they'll sell their consulting services. But this is what a mastermind does. If you're selling your consulting services, then you're just getting paid per hour by the people that you're working with. And then what people often do is from there, they'll upgrade and they'll sell the mastermind. And I've seen some really interesting prices for masterminds. So is one of the reasons people do the masterminds at all is just because it's a better way to leverage their time?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely a way to have a bigger impact rather than one-on-one. You can 1-on-6, 1-on-8. You can go a bit bigger than that, certainly in person. But once it starts getting bigger than that, you just don't get enough time with people. But absolutely leveraging, creating that bigger impact and figuring out how you can best utilize your time, energy, and resources. And that's what all smart business owners do. They're always looking at leverage. They're always saying, how can I get away from doing just one-on-one? How can I employ more people? How can I ensure that I've got the biggest leverage, and I call it maximum return on intellect. And the more you can do that, the more you can have that bigger impact, that you can reach more people. And as long as it's sort of scalable and you can do that, then absolutely that's one of the key concepts of the mastermind, is going from the one-to-one to one to, I call it a few, probably not many. It's not a course. It's just something that you'll do to one to few, that intimate sort of learning environment.
One to few is what number? What's a good size mastermind?
I personally believe about 8 maximum. Any more than that, and just people just don't get enough time with the guru, with the facilitator, who I want to call them, but also they're sort of waiting around too long for them. Because let's face it, we all want to talk about us. What's in it for me is one of the big things that drives us as humans. And if you're in a group that's too big, you're going, okay, well, that I know that idea, or that's great, but it doesn't apply to me. And you can easily get disheartened or disillusioned, or just feeling a little bit left out, because we all want to feel the love, let's face it.
Well, I've seen masterminds at 20 to 25. And as a matter of fact, if you take a look at the Vistage model, Vistage has, not that they're quote unquote masterminding per se, but it's a concept off of the masterminding service, and their groups are 20, 25 people. And they're paying $15,000 for the year to be part of this group led by a facilitator. And it's not too dissimilar to the concept of a mastermind. And they seem to be fairly effective of doing that with that larger quantity of people. So 8 seems like a small number for me, very personalized services.
I just think with 20, 25 people, how does every single person get to even ask one question? How do they get their sticking points? Because we all have different sticking points. It's almost the inverted classroom or the flipped classroom model, where you consume some content and then you come and you add that context, as I keep talking about. It's different sticking points. So somebody might read or consume a piece of information and go, I understand all of that, perfect. Someone else will go, look, I got stuck here. How does that apply to me? So there comes a point where if you are just teaching to 25 people, you're teaching the concept and people get it at different learning speed, different types of understanding. And then, as I said, if you've got 25 different questions, would you even get through that in a session? I don't know. Without seeing their model of what they're doing, it sounds to me more like it's education than real facilitation. Because by the way, this is where I've always slightly disagreed with your numbers of 8, because not everyone has questions at the same time. Not everyone wants to say, tell me about me, where sometimes one person asks a question and it applies to many others. But you still need to orchestrate a being where everyone gets their focus. And typically with a 25, I think what will happen is 1 or 2 people get primary focus during a particular session, right? And then there's alone time spent outside of the group. So I mean, it's a different model, and it's certainly not your standard mastermind. But once again, I've seen many masterminds that have been at successful masterminds at 20, where people are paying 20, 25,000 to be part of the mastermind, and they're one of 20, 25 others. And I've seen that. So that's why I hear the thought on the 8. I'm just not sure I know that's guaranteed one-on-one consulting. I just don't know that's always necessary, particularly if the group is learning and growing from each other. Oh yeah, but if it works, it works. There's no right or wrong one. I've just found for me the sweet spot is the smaller groups, because I personally like to be a bit more intimate, a little bit more get to know that person, because what you'll find is that we often got the same sticking points, and it's something that we can't get past. And you won't necessarily know that in a bigger group. You won't get that intimacy with them. That's just my personal opinion on it of how I like to work.
So tell me, what are we going to cover? What are some of the topics we're going to cover in the next 4 sessions?
Well, we're going to definitely talk about how to increase your authority. That's definitely one of the key things, and that ties very much into you being the global credibility expert. We're going to touch a little bit on return on intellect that I mentioned earlier. That's just a way of people starting that conversation about, do I have this expertise, and can I wrap that up into something else, like a book or a mastermind or a course? Yep. We're also going to talk about going from mastery to innovation. This idea that you reach a point where you're really good at something, and then it's, how can I innovate that in some different and interesting ways? And again, ties back in several sort of themes, ties back into creating that bigger impact that you want in the world, that make a difference, however that is. And I think a lot of people, as they get well into their career and their expertise and their niche, they want to give back, they want to serve, they want to have that bigger impact, and they're just not quite sure how to do that. So it's starting that conversation. I know there's more to life. I know there's more. I can have a bigger reach, a bigger impact. What are some of the steps I should be doing to start to do that?
Okay. I think we're going to have a couple other things come out of this as well. I've always loved the concept of teaching and exploring. And I love the conceptual concept of a mastermind being that you learn from everyone else. There's just this fine line between the host of the mastermind, i.e. the person making the money, and being able to be smart enough to know when to step in, as well as smart enough to know when the group gets to learn from each other. That would be an interesting set of concepts to talk about as well.
Yeah, we also talk about teaching to the problem. It's the same as when you start a business. Most business owners start a business because they've got a great idea, only to find out that the market doesn't really want it. So one of the key things that I teach everybody at the very start of the mastermind is, okay, you might have 15 years experience in your niche, great, but find out what the market wants, because potentially it's changed, and you're validating your ideas before you go down this rabbit hole of building out this huge program or this very expensive even course that nobody wants. So teaching to the problem is definitely something that really ties in. Got all that expertise, that's great, that 15 years experience, but do we need all of it? What's the most valuable part of that people want to learn now? And because we're facing huge disruption to markets, it's changing at an ever faster pace. And again, we're struggling to keep up with technology, with advances in our industry, with new concepts, as well as serving our clients and doing our regular day-to-day stuff. So the other part of the mastermind is that, okay, this is what's disrupting our industry. Come and learn about it. This is new. Come and learn this new technique, rather than trying to spend 6 months, 12 months figuring out on your own. So again, we're partly teaching to the problem, and that's a great way of being smart and being on topic, on trend, and not building something that is redundant in 6 months because the market shifted.
And our masterminds always physically in person? I've seen a number of those. Or you have software that you use and help facilitate online masterminding. Is one better than another?
Well, I predominantly run virtually all of mine online, just because you can have that sort of global reach. It cuts down on travel time, cuts down on parking fees, the expense of hiring a room. Having said that, having that close, intimate relationship where people physically shake hands, they're in the same room, they can network and talk at the breaks. There's a lot to be said for that. We're human people. We love that human contact. And I think taking that away has, although the internet and technology has created all these huge advantages, we are reaching that tipping point where we're craving a bit more social interaction because we're social creatures. So ideally, you could do a combination of both. You could do an online one and then an in-person meetup.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty cool. So is there, Ronan, is there a question I should have asked you that I didn't?
That's a good one to ask in a mastermind. How do you even know what you don't know? I think we've covered off the broad strokes of the mastermind. I think we've sort of dived into a couple of my sort of key ideas and where I think it should go. But again, it's just my opinion. In answer to your question, probably one of them is what type of person participates in a mastermind? Because I do get asked that quite a lot. And it's somebody that actually has a thirst for knowledge, but also is very much a giver. They want to see other people succeed. And that isn't always true in business. There are people that are quite sort of, it's that growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And when you're in a mastermind group, you pretty much want everybody in that group to succeed. So you want to be a giver. You want to be able to say, oh, look, I heard you got a problem with this. I had that problem before. I've solved it. Let's talk offline. Let's meet up and I can help you with that. And having that giving mentality, instead of going to this group thinking, oh, there's 6 people in here and they've all got 10 years experience. I can suck all this knowledge out without potentially having that give back. So one of the key attributes that you do look for somebody in a mastermind is somebody that has that genuine curiosity of A, to learn, and B, to see others succeed as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. And you have, I just thought I'd mention, you actually have online software. Do you want to just talk about that just for a second?
Yeah, as part of my mastermind program, I put people into a custom mastermind platform to ensure that they have a couple of just key features that are specific for masterminds: goal setting, taking notes for those goals to ensure that people come on track. Because accountability is a huge thing. It's what everybody wants in others, but struggles to have it in themselves. And one of the key value propositions of a mastermind is that accountability. So the software is designed specifically for people to just get that prompt and reminder: this is the goal you set for the week or for the month. Let's stay on track and let's ensure that you actually hit that goal. And let's work on your habits to ensure that you reach those goals.
Nice. And how do people reach out to you if they want to?
They can contact me on LinkedIn. I'm Ronan Leonard, the Mastermind guy, as you said. I'm also on Twitter, Accountability, and just through my website, accountability.io.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I'm particularly excited to learn, poke a little bit, because we can disagree on the number of people that make sense. One thing that I bring to the table, I was running a program at local university, San Jose State University, and it was we sold over 4,700 courses, and I was in the same course being taught when there were 50 people in the room, 25, 15, 8. And so it's interesting to see the level of intimacy when you're teaching and experiencing that level. Whereas 50, it's more teaching. When there's 8 or 15 or even 20, it's more interactive, right? And so it'll be interesting to see what some of our other guests say about that and where they focus us. And in particular for masterminding, if you're a coach, a consultant in HR today, within companies, this is a topic that you need to know about, you need to focus on, you need to either participate in yourself or run for your clients as you get bigger and stronger at what you do, the ability to leverage. And that's one of my biggest lessons that I've learned. I'm so glad you brought it up. The L word, leverage, is the most important thing you could possibly do. Or for me, if you want to reach out to me, go to Mitchell Levy 360. So that's MITCHELLLEVY 360.com. You'll see a customer testimonial video and the ability to connect to me on the social media platform that you are interested in, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or if you need to or interested in booking time, you can find time on my calendar And so that's mitchelllevy360.com. And Ronan, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to take our conversation and tap it with some of the other folks and see what their thoughts are on masterminding and coming up with this content that we're going to share, which so many people need to know about.
Yeah, exactly. The point that we can speak to other people and get their take on it, because it's not a one-size-fits-all bathrobe. It is that multiple viewpoint. And like you pushed back on a couple of things with me about the mastermind, I'm not quite sure about that. That's all part of it. That's great. That's what you want. You don't want to be in this silo, in this glass house where you think you know it all. A true mastermind really is that collaboration and that sharing of ideas and that finding the sweet spot where everybody benefits from it, and even the facilitator learns, grows, and improves. So thank you for having me on the show and diving into what I'm obsessed about, which is mastermind.
It's so beautiful. Thanks for joining me. I'll look forward to our next episode. Ronan, take care. And everyone else, thanks for joining us for this episode. See you on the next episode of Thought Leader Life. Take care. Bye now. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Thought Leader Life. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and activate us by going to thoughtleaderlife.com/activate. Till next time.